there, sexy techies.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 10.
Woohoo! Double digits.
We did it.
We did it.
10. It's like we've made it.
I know. I don't know what we did, but we did it.
We've sat here 10 episodes in a row, 10 weeks in a row, recorded an episode, put it out there, and some people are listening.
I know. Thank you, some people.
We appreciate you, some people. And because we appreciate you so much, we are going to do, actually, we won't just do this once, but we're going to start and do a listener mail type episode at some point. So we've already got, what are you laughing at?
So I'm nervous.
We've already gotten some feedback, some suggestions about things to talk about. But if you would like to send anything in, whether it's a question, it can be a question about something we've talked about, a question about another topic related to tech or startups or content creators, a suggestion for a future episode, anything you'd like, send it in. You can DM us on Instagram. I'm Tony.coms.
And I'm Maymosa.
And you might get a shout out on the show.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm so nervous.
All right, May, to kick off today's episode, I'd like you to tell me, maybe, I don't know, can you give me 3 examples of iconic companies that you remember when you were a kid, kid or teenager or something like that are still around today doing well?
That are still around today doing well.
Yeah, still iconic. They were iconic companies then, they're iconic companies now.
I don't know if they're iconic, but I don't know why this is the first thing. General Mills, because all the cereal that I used to eat when I was younger are still kind of around today, like Frosted Flakes and Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
That's a good one. I should have been more specific. How about maybe something that deals in some fashion with technology?
No, not food. Okay.
No, I mean,
okay, get my mind.
Food's fine, but yeah.
Oh, wow. Technology when I was a kid, because things have really changed. Maybe TV broadcast companies like NBC, ABC.
Okay. Broadcast networks.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Since we're talking about TV, maybe brands of TVs themselves, Samsung and Panasonic.
What was that last one?
Panasonic.
Okay. The Chicago accent on full display.
I'm trying to think of, gosh, I'm sure there's something. When you put me on the spot like this, I get nervous.
Okay, well, that's fine. I was just wondering. We are not going to be talking today about iconic companies that were around when we were kids and are still around today. We are going to be talking about iconic companies that are no longer with us.
Oh, R.I.P.
R.I.P. iconic companies. You just couldn't keep up.
Sorry. The company.
No, yeah. You and the companies.
I'm going down in the grave with them.
So I decided I wanted to talk about some companies that haven't made it. We've spoken mostly about companies that have done well. Last few weeks we've done some startup stories about companies that, have done really well. I just wanted to take a different turn.
Yeah, well, knowing about people's failures is also a way for others to learn how to be successful.
It is, yeah. We should learn from the mistakes of the past.
Right, absolutely. This could be really exciting, and it could help people who are thinking of starting something. If they are at a fork in the road, maybe they have now after this a clear answer as to which path to take.
Maybe.
We'll see. I don't know. I'm curious to know what what companies you're about to highlight.
Yeah, so I was thinking about which direction to take this, and we could go the scandal route and talk about companies like Theranos, FTX, or Enron.
Yeah.
And we'll probably do that at some point, but not today.
Oh, okay.
All right. We're also not going to talk about .com era bubble burst tech companies like Pets.com or Webvan. That could be another episode too. And we're also not going to talk about Quibi. You remember Quibi?
Why does that? It's like unlocking some core memory, but I can't.
It shouldn't really be a core memory, but Quibi. So in 2020, Quibi raised $1.75 billion. And it was going to be this new media company. And it lasted all of 8 months. Didn't even make it out of 2020 alive.
No, I have no idea what Quibi is.
Okay, well, you've already erased it from your mind. You probably saw dozens of Quibi commercials leading up to the launch of Quibi.
Wait, like the Super Bowl had Quibi commercials, right?
Probably. I mean, they had to spend that money somehow.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I knew what Quibi was, but I didn't know what it was.
All right, well, we're not talking about them today either.
Okay, all
Okay,
right.
today we are talking about companies killed off by the innovator's dilemma.
Oh, okay.
Are you familiar with the innovator's dilemma?
No, but I'm assuming it's a dilemma that innovators come across when they're trying to innovate.
Yeah, okay. So the innovator's dilemma is a book. It was written by Clayton Christensen. It is called The Innovator's Dilemma: When New Technologies Cause Great Firms to Fail. So Clayton Christensen was a Harvard professor and businessman. This is, I think, his most famous book. He really goes into sustaining innovation versus disruptive innovation, and what happens when large incumbents are faced with new technology, disruptive technology, and they make some poor choices, maybe get hit with some bad luck, and they don't really make it out of it unscathed.
Okay.
And the companies that we're going to be talking about, they were the dominant players in their industries.
Okay.
So they relied on existing technology. They already had invested a lot of money and time and training into the resources, into the products that they were familiar with.
Right.
And they had a huge market share. Okay. And so when they think of innovating, they generally think of improving their current technologies.
Right.
You know, maybe more incremental innovations in scale. How can we deliver this cheaper maybe to our customers? And they have an existing customer base that they have to worry about, which is very important when we talk about some of these companies.
Okay.
On the other side, you have disruptive technologies and disruptive innovation. These often start out very small, catering to a very small subset of the population. So they're not very interesting to these big companies at first. They're often buggy. Maybe they're slow. They don't satisfy the demands of the larger population that the existing incumbents cater to. So it's very easy for the incumbents to not think that these technologies are a threat.
Right. Or just kind of like turn a blind eye to them.
Yeah, they can dismiss them very easily, as we'll see. But these technologies can also advance very quickly. They can overcome those setbacks or drawbacks that make them easily dismissible at the beginning. And in doing so, they can innovate very quickly and capture a large share of the market. And they can leave the previously dominant players behind if they're not careful. So those are the types of companies that we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
I have a feeling that all of our listeners will likely be familiar with all of these companies.
Okay. Yeah.
They were each at one point the most dominant player in their respective spaces.
Yep.
None of them are with us today in the form that they were when we knew them best.
Okay. My wheels are spinning. I'm like trying to figure out, I'm trying to like follow along and figure out who you're talking about.
Yeah, like slivers of some of these companies still exist, but they're doing different things and they're a shell of their former selves.
Okay. All right.
So let's start this off. Let's talk about the company that was originally known as Research in Motion, or RIM.
I'm supposed to know this?
Not yet.
Okay. It was like, wow, I'm dumb.
They are much better known as Blackberry.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I loved my Blackberry Pearl.
So at some point, they actually changed their name to Blackberry Limited, but they started off as a company called Research in Motion. The original Blackberry device was a pager or a beeper, as some people would call them, but it also had a keyboard and you could send email with it.
Oh, wow.
Pretty advanced for back in the day.
Is.
That's actually seemed like, if I take myself back to like me in grade school or middle school or something like that is the technology of the future.
Oh my God. You'd be like the coolest kid if you had the beeper that you could like email from.
Yeah. I would hook up my Hotmail account.
Oh, Hotmail.
Yeah. That was probably what I had back then.
Yeah.
And I would be sending off Hotmails while I was selling items on eBay.
I just remember beepers, like, because I used to have to like page like my dad to let him know that like I came home.
Yeah.
And we'd have like codes, like, because, for those who don't know what a beeper, I don't know like what demographic we're talking to right now, but
Yeah,
like,
you might as well explain this thing.
it is you call a number, and then it asks you to like leave a number to call back, and then the person with the beeper gets the number. But like my dad and I had codes for each other, like, I think like 7 meant that I was home, 9 meant that I went to a friend's house or something like that. And then I would like leave my friend's number, so like if they needed to call back.
Ah.
And then I just know that like other people, like the cool kids in my class that had beepers, you could leave the numbers that spell hello upside down, and things like that. That was the cool messaging we did with beepers back then.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty awesome back then. Like just the thought of, oh, someday I could get one of these.
Yeah.
Like that, I would be the cat's meow.
Yes, the cat's pajamas.
So that was the original BlackBerry.
Mm-hmm.
A slightly later version it actually looked more like a phone, and it had a larger screen on it, but it required a headset to plug in. So you actually had to plug a headset in to use it. So it wasn't like you couldn't just hold it up to your head and make calls with it. But they were moving in the direction of modern phones, and BlackBerry started innovating. They came out with BlackBerry Messenger. So at some point, their phones could handle media, instant messages. You could send. I remember you telling me about BlackBerry Messenger because I never had a BlackBerry, and you were like,
BBM.
Yeah,
oh my
BBM.
Gosh,
yeah, you were
BlackBerry Messenger BBM.
You were like, I can't believe you don't have BBM, and I was like, what's BBM? You're like, you're not cool enough to know what BBM is.
It's like the equivalent of like iPhone users getting a green text instead of a blue text, like
when an Android is.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
BBM.
Yeah. So, I mean, BlackBerry also innovated in a few other key spaces. So they were known as the most secure platform. Mm-hmm. So it became a kind of the gold standard for business clientele, and also for government users. So adoption of BlackBerries increased pretty quickly throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. They also had a full physical keyboard.
Yes.
So like a QWERTY style type keyboard where you could type, using all the letters, whereas the other cell phones at the time used something called T9 word, where you had to press a number a few times to get the letter that you wanted. Remember?
Yeah.
And actually, you could get pretty fast at that thing.
Oh,
the
yes.
T9,
I know. That was like a whole nother like language and skill set that people like developed.
Right.
That's so funny. Yeah. And there was also a technology like later where you didn't have to like scroll through all like, press 2-3 times to get to C. A combination of letters, like they had the intelligence to
that's
know
right. Yeah, I remember that.
what word you're trying to spell, even if you only like hit the number once.
Yep.
Technology, man.
Oh. What will they think of next? BlackBerry users loved their BlackBerries.
Yes.
They were addicted to them.
True.
There were, jokes about that. They loved the full, like the physical keyboard.
Yeah.
They loved the click of the buttons that you press down, like the little pop or click that it made when you pressed it down and it popped back up. At the time, most people would have probably thought that they would have a BlackBerry device for the rest of their lives.
That's true.
In 2006, BlackBerry released the BlackBerry Pearl.
Yep. That's what I had.
You had the BlackBerry Pearl. I thought so. So the BlackBerry Pearl was a slightly slimmer BlackBerry. It wasn't as wide as the traditional BlackBerries. That was the big innovation of the year in 2006 for BlackBerry.
Well, it had a scrolly ball too.
Yes, that's right. It had the scrolly instead of the track pad, it had the track ball.
Yeah. Which was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was different.
And mine came in pink.
And okay. Well, I mean, that's innovation right there.
Sold me.
2007 saw the launch of the BlackBerry Curve, which I think that one actually had that same trackball instead of the track wheel on the side. That was very popular with the BlackBerries for a long time. But 2007, remember, so as BlackBerry is launching their, these slight innovations and tweaks to their products, that's the year that the first iPhone came out. And not much later, the first Android devices came out in 2008.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so these are full touchscreen devices. And actually, the initial reaction to them by BlackBerry users was not very favorable people liked their buttons and their full physical keyboards.
To like actually like feel the clicks.
Yeah. And a lot of people said, you know, they would never switch to a full touchscreen phone. Like they liked their keyboard. They were too fast at typing on their physical keyboard. They would never get that fast on a touchscreen where they couldn't feel the buttons.
I was probably one of those people, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a large percentage of people were originally in that camp. So, you know, you had your first iPhones and then you had your first Android phones coming out 2007, 2008. BlackBerry's new device in 2008 was the BlackBerry Flip.
Okay.
All right. So I looked at I didn't remember this one off the top of my head, but I looked at a picture of it earlier when I was researching for this episode. It kind of looked like the Motorola Razr, which would be cool, except the Motorola Razr came out in 2004.
Yeah.
So 4 years earlier.
So it looks like it was like taking a step back.
Well, or it was, you know, BlackBerry saw the success of the Razr phone, and they thought that that's the direction that these phones should be going. Slimmer, they could flip, they could flip in half to get them to be smaller. And, you know, it took them 4 years, but they came out with something similar. Now, in 2008, so when those first Android phones came out, a year after the first iPhone came out, BlackBerry released the BlackBerry Storm.
Yes, I remember that name. Can't remember what it did.
So it was the first BlackBerry phone that had a full touchscreen display.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So they were only a year after the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't an iPhone. So BlackBerry, they knew that their users loved the click, and they were also kind of late to this party.
Right.
So their first full touchscreen phone, you actually had to press down on the screen to get it to click.
Okay.
So like the screen itself was a big button, and depending on where you pressed, it would register like a different click.
Oh, interesting. So it wasn't like, because I know touchscreen phones like iPhone and Android, like it gave you that like click sensation when you touched it. But
no, that was made like electronically though.
Yeah.
The BlackBerry one was made mechanically.
Oh, wow. That's so funny.
I think that they thought that like, oh, our users still need that feel. Like they want, like we want to meet in the middle. Like we want to create this touchscreen device because that's, you know, we see that this might be the way that things are going. But our users, you know, in our user research, we see our users love the click.
So I mean, I get that like maybe they did a touchscreen to maybe get people who were iPhone users or Android users to be BlackBerry users. But Android and iPhone users are used to touch, like, or tap, to tap to select and not click to select. So I'm sure that didn't translate well for them.
Yeah, no, you're right. So, I mean, that product was a flop. The BlackBerry Storm was not well liked. So in 2010, BlackBerry launched the BlackBerry Torch. That was a full touchscreen phone. No click anymore on the phone, but it still did have a slide-out keyboard because they couldn't get rid of it. You know, their users kept, you know, they knew their users and their users wanted their keyboard.
Their users are starting to sound older and older and more like crotchety.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, we're only moving a couple years at a time.
Yeah.
But things are changing quickly. So, first of all, they were 3 years late, right? They were 3 years after the iPhone.
Right.
And their technology. So the iPhone was also 3 years after the first iPhone, right? So the iPhone was getting better every year.
Right.
This BlackBerry Torch phone, the touchscreen was terrible. The technology was years behind.
Oh.
You know, it may have been modeled after the original iPhone, or even worse, because they were trying to catch up.
Right.
And the interesting thing was, BlackBerry tried to meet kind of in the middle in these technologies. Like, we're trying to do touchscreen because, you know, we see the market kind of liking that stuff, but we also know our users like their buttons.
Right.
So we'll just give them both, and like they can choose, right? And the problem with that was Apple and Android users were not going to switch to this device.
Right. Yeah.
That seemed like, you know, my dad's device or,
Right.
you know, my grandpa's device,
Yeah.
that like they were already happy with the new device that they had, and this was not better.
Right. Right.
So like they didn't blow it out of the park with this thing.
Yeah.
And their loyal BlackBerry users who they thought, you know, just wanted the buttons, they didn't want that touchscreen either. That like subpar touchscreen thing.
Right.
And then they had to slide it open to get to their keyboard.
Right.
So just all sorts of product mistakes thrown in there.
I don't know. I feel for that because the collaborator in me, or like even just like the people pleaser in me, like I feel like that's the direction that I would have also gone if I were, one of like the product designers for
Sure.
Blackberry.
Yeah, I mean, this is a difficult position to be in. I mean, as much as it's like, oh, woe is me, like I'm a huge, billions of dollars, like I'm a company worth billions of dollars. How do I keep all that money? I mean, that's one of the problems with the innovator's dilemma. Is like you've got this existing user base that's very large, and clearly they're buying your products because they like them.
Right.
They like they like you better than the alternatives at the time.
Right.
And you're surveying them and you're finding out what they like and you're listening to them, but you're thinking in the present instead of in the future. Mm-hmm. So you're listening to your users and what they like right now, and it's difficult to and you're saying, well, we need to keep these users because they pay for our products, and this is what they're telling us they want.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing a few years down the line where these shifts are going to happen. Or even if you are, it's hard to know because you see those as such small percentages of the market at the time.
Right,
so
2010
was the peak year for BlackBerry. They had 43% of the market share in 2010 for smartphones. We'll call them smart.
Yeah.
In 2011, that dropped to 30%, from 43 to 30 in 1 year.
Yeah.
In 2012, that cut in half again to 15%.
Oh, no. They're going down.
And in 2013, it dropped to under 6%.
Oh, wow.
So their fall from the top was very fast.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's all because they made some mistakes.
Right.
I mean, they made some mistakes and they got caught up in that innovator's dilemma. And there's a great quote. It is often attributed to Henry Ford. Okay. And he said...
The car guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, just making sure.
Model T.
Yes.
He said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And so the point of the quote is, people don't necessarily always know what they want, right? They know that their existing solution is a horse.
Yeah.
And if you ask them, what can I do to make it better? They're going to say, make my horse go faster so I can get there faster. They don't know about cars.
Yeah.
Right?
Or but I mean, still, like, survey your users. Like, if, going back to YC's,
talk to your users,
Talk to your users, but don't take their feedback literally because there could be a message or, an idea that you're missing.
You can use it to understand their problem,
yeah.
right? So they want faster horses because they want to get somewhere faster.
Right, yeah, exactly.
It's your job to figure out how to get them there faster.
Yes, but, like, of course, me being like, oh, okay, let's, like, exercise the horses more.
Well, hey, maybe that was a first step.
I don't know. Oh, boy.
So that's the story of BlackBerry. We're not going to beat a dead horse here. We're going to move on to the next one. All right. All right. Next up. And we're moving in order from least to most nostalgic for me personally.
Okay. I mean, that BlackBerry Pearl was pretty nostalgic.
Well, I never had one.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think my dad had one, but yeah, I didn't have much attachment to it.
Okay. So
I know a lot of people did, though.
I have to think like you, though.
I'm going to give you a hint on this one.
Okay.
You've got mail.
Oh.
Yes.
AOL.
America Online. Oh. So, founded in 1985 as Quantum Computer Services. It was originally like an online chat system for the Commodore 64 computer. That didn't go very far, but in 1989, the name was changed to America Online, and they decided to go after the internet service provider market, realizing that the internet, which previously had been limited to use by universities, like research universities and colleges, they saw that the internet was going to become more widely available. Technology to access the internet was growing in adoption. So America Online emerged as an internet service provider and a software provider that had things like chat rooms, instant messages, and an email interface for basically the early days of the personal computer. Did you have America Online at your house at the Pagata household back in the day?
We were very late to that party. There's a little childhood trauma associated with it. I mean, One, we only had one phone line, so it was like a whole thing about like getting,
Yeah.
internet added to it. We actually started with, oh gosh, I can't remember what the other internet was. There like was Yahoo one?
I don't know I can't remember if Yahoo had their own ISP, but CompuServe was another. I think we had them actually before AOL.
I don't know. And it was like a whole thing where like our whole family had to share like one screen
Yeah,
name.
Prodigy. Actually, I think there was one called Prodigy that we had for a time. Yeah, there were a bunch.
Okay.
But
But all my friends had AOL.
okay.
And all I wanted was AOL, but
So you made the noise before. I think we should probably explain that for some of our younger listeners. So the internet used to be, when it first started gaining mainstream adoption, you had to get on the internet through a landline phone. And when you did, you also needed a modem to place a call from your computer through the phone line. And when you did, it sounded like, I'm going to say a fax machine, but you may also not know what that is. But it made the noise that May made earlier. It's kind of like a ringing and a beeping and a
little bit of scratching.
hissing. Yeah, some weird noises. You can look it up on the internet to hear what it sounded like. And then you were connected to the internet at blazing fast speeds.
Blazing fast.
Where it might take you 5 minutes to download a single picture.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So that was how you connected to the internet. And America Online back in the day they were called an internet service provider. So you had your phone line, and if you only had one, that means you couldn't make a call and be on the internet at the same time because your modem was using the phone line. So that's why May mentioned they only had one line. Then, if someone's expecting an important call.
Yes, it was always an issue.
Yeah.
It's like, get off the phone. Or somebody would pick up the phone not knowing someone was on the internet and kick them off the internet.
Oh, kick you right off the internet, right in the middle of downloading that picture that you wanted.
Yeah, oh, right.
Yeah, or that MP3 or something.
Yes. Yeah, but like some families had a fax line already, and so they were able to utilize their fax line as their second line for the internet, knowing that, and fax is kind of, maybe they were dwindling, maybe not because of email, but, it was less likely that you'd be kicked off because you were receiving a fax than, or sending a fax.
So it didn't take long for us to get a second phone line. I think because of how much
You're fancy.
No, I think just because of how much we used the internet, and it was a problem. I mean, we didn't have cell phones, so if anybody wanted to call you, they had to call you on your landline home phone number.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got a second line, so we didn't have to worry about all that business. So America Online quickly became the most popular internet service provider in the country. Their signature sounds, the welcome, you've got mail.
Oh my goodness.
And then the door, the door noise for chat rooms. Exactly, the door opening and closing. They really had people locked in.
I know. Yes, those are some like core memory sounds that I don't think I'll ever not hear. That man saying, "You've got mail."
Yeah,
it haunts me.
I know. So, and one of the ways that AOL was so successful. This is another core memory, blast from the past. Their marketing strategy at the time, do you remember what it was? Their primary marketing strategy?
I don't. I know
you're gonna remember as soon as I say it. So they sent out millions of free trial CD-ROMs.
Oh, yes, those CDs.
Yes. To basically every household in the country was getting these CDs on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. All these deals, you could get a free trial, a 30-day free trial. You might have a platinum edition of America Online, which was, I don't know, you got a 45-day free trial or something. At one point, this statistic blows my mind. Half of all the CDs produced in the world were AOL free trial CD-ROMs.
That's insane.
Yeah. So the environmental cost of these CDs, which were mostly thrown away. I kept getting them. We already had America Online. Right. We didn't need a free trial.
Oh, you couldn't just gift it to I guess somebody else already had it.
Yeah, they're sending it to everybody. Right, so, it was very effective. They grew like crazy. So in 1997, AOL acquired CompuServe, which was a competing ISP, Internet Service Provider. In 1999, they acquired Netscape. Do you remember Netscape, the browser?
I do. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Netscape was a competitor of Internet Explorer back in the day, and Apple's Safari browser before Google Chrome Mozilla
Yeah,
Firefox.
That's what we use Netscape
Okay.
to surf the web.
The World Wide Web.
Yeah, the World Wide Web.
Yeah. So in the year 2000, AOL was at its peak with 25 million subscribers and $125 billion valuation.
That's insane.
They were riding high.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Good for them.
Good for them. Not for long. So their bubble was about to burst, along with the dot-com bubble as a whole. So in the year 2000, AOL, they saw rising competition. They were tied directly to dial-up internet. They were selling a service that, was used through dial-up internet. And dial-up internet was the old school.
Right.
That was from a few years ago. People were moving to broadband.
Right.
And with broadband, you didn't need your modem. You didn't need you had your cable provider.
Yes.
That could provide you internet.
Is that like when you could then now hook up your computer to like the Ethernet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you didn't need that phone line to get on the internet anymore. And you didn't need AOL. But not everybody was moving, this was going to be a slow transition to broadband, right? It was going to take some time.
Right.
But, they were looking ahead, sort of.
Not too far.
I mean, in one direction.
Yeah.
And so they said, we're gonna have to make some changes. Like, we see advertising becoming a much more important strategy that we're gonna have to get into. They're seeing Google, the rise of Google, with Google's search engine. They're seeing Microsoft, and they want to get on that advertising world. And so in the year 2000, they merge with Time Warner in what was at the time, I think it was the largest merger ever in the world.
AOL Time Warner.
AOL Time Warner, yes.
Yeah.
It also went down as one of the worst corporate mergers in history.
Oh.
So their cultures collided. When the AOL and Time Warner cultures, they just the two sides did not get along. It seemed like they couldn't do anything right.
Oh.
Their timing could not have been worse. The internet bubble.
Yeah.
So the valuation at the time was sky high.
Right.
And then the internet bubble bursts, and all these internet companies, their valuations come crashing down.
Right.
And also, along with it, online advertising for a period of time comes crashing down, which was going to be a big portion of their their pivoting strategy.
What year was this again?
This happened in 2000.
Okay.
AOL, they just really couldn't. They had nowhere to go, and it didn't take long. AOL just, they no longer had their core subscription business for their internet service provider.
Right.
That was going down the tubes. They could never really gain traction with their whole content strategy, advertising, the whole Time Warner acquisition. That just did not work out.
Yeah.
That didn't play out in their favor. And AOL fell from grace, pretty rapidly, to the point where now, you look back and you wonder, how does a company with that much market share that grew that quickly, how do they not figure out something, right, to stay relevant? And they didn't.
Well, that's interesting, though, because I still do remember, so if this happened in 2000, we were in college a couple years after that, and we were still heavily using AIM as our primary
So AOL
chat.
didn't go away immediately. Right. AOL continued to linger on. Some people still had dial-up. AOL Instant Messenger survived, I think, into the 2010s.
Right. Because I do remember, like, after post-college, I remember, everyone was, like, saying where they were working next. And when my friend said that she was working at AOL, and I thought that was a sweet gig because of how much, everyone was using AIM as the instant messenger platform.
No, so the merger happened in 2000. Clearly, in hindsight, it's easy to say it was the worst merger in history, but this isn't to say that, like, in the year 2000, everything knew that it was going to be the worst merger.
I see. Okay, I see what you're saying.
All right, that's the sad tale of AOL.
Oh.
All right, moving on to the last one.
Okay.
Picture yourself on a Friday night in 1996, let's say. You're going to spend a quiet night at home with the family, all right? Maybe you're going to make some popcorn, pop in a movie, Where are you going to rent that movie?
Blockbuster, obviously.
Blockbuster Video.
Sorry, I thought you were going to say something about watching the TGIF sitcom lineup, because that's what I was doing on Friday.
Okay, let's say you go out and you get it on Friday, but then you save it for Saturday. Yeah, that's true, because you got to watch your step-by-step.
Yeah, Family Matters.
Your Family Matters, yeah.
Okay, yeah, Saturday, movie night. Got it.
So, Blockbuster Video. So, Blockbuster was founded in 1985 in Dallas as a single location video rental store. They stocked 8,000 VHS tapes in a single location. So, the founder, so most other stores could only stock maybe 100 in the hundreds of VHS tapes. The founder was in the computer business. He was able to create a more modern, efficient checkout system. So, that was some early innovation. It did very well in that early Dallas store, well enough that they opened 3 more stores in 1986. So they grew pretty quickly. And in 1987, Blockbuster received $18.5 million in funding. Oh, wow. Okay, so that was their first external round of funding. In 1992, Blockbuster bought out the video rental chain Ritz in the UK. Okay. So they were going international. Oh. And in 1994, Viacom bought Blockbuster for $8.4 billion. Oh, wow. Which, I mean, that's a pretty meteoric rise. So they started in 1985, and they were sold to Viacom for $8.4 billion in 1994. By 1993, so just before they were sold, there were 3,000 Blockbuster retail locations. And, Blockbuster probably thought that they were ready, right? Mm-hmm. Like they were ready to innovate. Yeah. When the world switched from VHS to DVD in the late 90s, Blockbuster was there. Yeah. They stocked plenty of DVDs.
I remember.
They were ready for it, right? How could things go wrong? I mean, they had, at their peak, Blockbuster had 9,000 retail locations.
Yeah. They were everywhere.
I mean, yeah, you probably couldn't drive more than 10 minutes, right, without running into a Blockbuster.
Right.
And the reason that I said that, I was going to present these in order of nostalgia effect is because, I still think, there's something, so, you go on Netflix or you go on Amazon Prime or you go on, Hulu or whatever, and you scroll through video, you spend half an hour trying to find a movie, and then you pick one. There was nothing like walking the aisles of a Blockbuster. Yeah. Right? Right. Looking for, you've got your different sections. Yeah. You've got your new releases over here. Yeah. You've got your older movies. You've broken up into different genres.
The adult section in the back behind a curtain.
Yeah. I don't know if Blockbuster had that, but some other sketchy video rental stores. I think Blockbuster was more family friendly. Yeah. So, I mean, I have very fond memories growing up with, going there with my family on a weekend night or a weekend afternoon, picking out a movie or two.
You could also get candy and popcorn there.
Yeah, so it was also a convenience store, basically, for, when you were going to watch your movies. I mean, they made a lot of money off of those. So, how Blockbuster made their money. 1, they made their money off of their rentals, so their rental fees. 2, they made money off of their convenience store items. 3, they made a lot of money off of late fees. Remember late fees at Blockbuster?
Yes. Yep.
So at Blockbuster, depending on the movie, if it was a new release, generally I think you either had 2 or 3 days to keep it out. If you were late, if you were a minute late bringing that thing back that had a time on it, you owed them for another day or whatever it was. And they would just keep jacking up those late fees. Yeah. They made... At its peak, they made $800 million in late fees in a year, which was 16% of its total revenue.
Well, because I also remember that they had a shorter rental time period for the hot movies that were out, the hot, new releases. Right. And yeah, so you couldn't, sometimes you had to return it the next day. And so, yeah, if you were going on a Friday, you couldn't watch your TGIF. You had to watch it then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. Sometimes because of how short the rental period was, you had to watch that movie right when you brought it home. Yeah. Basically. Because you're well, I'm going to be busy tomorrow. I better watch it tonight.
Right. Yeah.
And then you forgot to bring it back anyway, and you ended up paying the late fee.
Was there ever a fee also, or a penalty fee for not rewinding it?
Yeah. Be kind, rewind. Yes, I think Blockbuster did have that fee, if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
Because again, the rule followers of my family, we had a rewind machine. Did you
Okay.
have that?
No, my family couldn't afford the rewind machine because we spent our money on the extra line for the the internet access.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you got to prioritize.
We needed the extra phone line. No, we never had one. Some of my friends, I remember the first time I went to a friend's house that had a rewind machine. We just finished watching a movie. He took it out of the VCR and put it into the rewind machine and rewound that sucker like at lightning speed.
So fast.
But I was like,
Like-
I was just like, I mean, the VCR has one too. I mean, yes, it's slower,
not,
but
it is not fast. And like sometimes you want to just like get out the door, like return that thing.
yeah, that's true. You got to get back before the late fee
I
kicks
loved
in.
my rewind machine.
Okay. So Blockbuster, they were on top of the world. All right. I mean, just like all of these companies.
Yeah.
In 1997, a little upstart company launches. Founder's name is Reed Hastings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he develops this company that takes some DVDs and sends them to you in the mail
Yeah. Yeah. In a little red envelope.
in a little red envelope called Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to go into the store anymore. You can go online. You can choose a movie that you want to watch. They had subscription tiers, so you could have one DVD out at a time, 2 DVDs out at a time. And Reed Hastings, the founder, said he actually founded Netflix because he didn't want to keep having to pay the $40 in fines he'd racked up for Blockbuster late charges.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there were no late fees with Netflix because
Yes.
you paid a subscription fee. Let's say I paid $10 a month to have one DVD out at a time. I could keep it as long as I wanted. I could keep it forever and just keep paying them $10 a month.
Right.
They didn't care.
Right.
And when I send it back, I can go on and pick out a new one. And they were lightning fast. Like I could have a queue of. I didn't have Netflix in the
Yeah,
early
I was gonna
days.
say,
I wasn't
I
cool
didn't
enough.
either.
My grandfather had Netflix.
Oh, he's really cool. Yeah.
He was. So he was the first person I knew that had Netflix, and he loved it, and I loved visiting his house because
he always had a movie.
he always had. Yeah, I think he had 2 out at a time. So he had this queue. We could get in on that queue if we wanted to. He knew we were coming over or whatever, and so you would send back a movie as soon as they scanned it.
Mm-hmm.
In the postal service, Netflix knew it was back. It was on its way back.
Wow.
You got your next one. You get your next movie like the next day.
Yeah.
It was crazy how fast it
Yeah.
was. So Reed Hastings founds Netflix in 1997. Netflix grows pretty fast. Okay. In the year 2000, Netflix had $35 million in revenue.
Okay.
Okay. So from 1997 to 2000, they grew to $35 million.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't profitable. They had some in the 50-something million dollars in expenses.
Because of like postage and all that.
Yeah, all their expenses, licensing fees for the
Right.
movies, staff, all the different costs for running the business. At that time, Reed Hastings, the founder, goes to Blockbuster and tries to sell Netflix. In hindsight now, this has to be
Yeah.
one of the single worst decisions in corporate history. Reed Hastings tries to sell Netflix to Blockbuster for $50 million.
Oh. Was it a pride thing? Like what?
No, I mean, they may not have been worth $50 million at the time. I don't know exactly what they were worth. I mean, they weren't
Yeah.
profitable.
Right.
They had
Okay.
$35 million in revenue.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they were worth $50 million. Who knows? They were flat out rejected. No counter offer,
Right.
no nothing. That year, Blockbuster raked in about $5 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
Okay? And they just didn't see Netflix as a
Right.
threat.
Yeah.
They
They're like, we're good.
yeah, we don't need this rinky-dink,
Yeah.
DVD
Like
by
mail.
mail. People aren't
Yeah.
going to want to wait for, a couple days to get a movie. Like they can come into our store and get it. We've got Blockbusters everywhere.
Right. Right.
Who are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Be gone.
So the interesting thing was, though, even though they were not yet profitable, Netflix was growing incredibly fast. So I looked up their growth metrics. In the year 2000, the same year that they offered to sell to Blockbuster, they grew 600% from the previous year.
In
6 times revenue
revenue.
from the previous year.
Okay, but not profit.
No, they didn't get to profitability yet, but that's common for early stage startups, especially doing something as expensive as licensing all of this, these movies and sending them
Right.
out by mail,
Yeah.
trying to acquire customers very quickly. Like you wouldn't expect them to be profitable yet.
Mm-hmm.
And for the next several years, they grew, over 100% each year.
Mm-hmm.
So their growth was very fast. Blockbuster says, no way, go home, keep sending out your DVDs. We're good. In 2002, Redbox launched.
Right. Okay. I remember Redbox. We still have a Redbox
Yeah.
down the street.
Redbox is still around too. They are still a big business. One of these three companies is not.
One of these things is not like the other.
So in the early 2000s, Blockbuster begins to fall from prominence, right? So they made that fateful decision not to acquire Netflix. More competition is coming onto the streets in Redbox. Suddenly, I don't need to go. Let's say I do want to rent a movie right now. I don't need to go wait in a store.
Right.
And for Redbox, I don't need to lease an entire location.
Right.
I can fit all of the movies that my customers want in this little vending machine box.
Yes. And if they put it outside of like a CVS or another convenience store, that's the convenience store part of it.
Right. That's a draw to, yeah, exactly. Like they can buy their goodies for their movie there,
stuff, yeah.
but it's also a draw for the convenience store
Right.
because it's like, oh, they're coming there anyway. They'll probably pop in and buy something. So Blockbuster tried, they tried to catch up, but they were too late. So in 2004, they launched Blockbuster Online, where you could try and rent some movies
I didn't even know
online.
that they had that.
Yeah. Well, that's because you had given up on Blockbuster by that point.
I must have, yeah.
Blockbuster also realized how much customers hated late fees.
Yeah.
Ended those late fees. They just said, we're not doing those late fees anymore. Great move for customers, bad move for business. That was almost 20% of their business at one point of their revenue. And also, when you are leasing a store and you have only so much space, you need the incentive for the customer to return that movie so somebody else can rent it.
Right.
Because you don't have the luxury, like a warehouse, like Netflix is operating, of stocking thousands of the same movie.
Yeah. Right.
You're stocking 5 of that movie, maybe, 10 if it's a new release, something like that.
You need it back.
You need those movies back. So customers will know when it's going to be back. They can come and get it.
Right.
That didn't work out well. From just 2003 to 2005, Blockbuster lost 75% of its market share, of its market value.
Wow.
In 2007, Netflix launched their online streaming service.
Right.
So no longer do you even have to rent your DVDs by mail. You can go online and rent your movies. Now, when they originally launched, the original product was not very good. They only had 1,000 streaming movies, whereas they had like 70,000 on DVD that you could rent.
Right.
So most people still did maybe you did a combination of both, or for a while people were still just doing the DVD thing.
Right. I remember like not thinking that was a good like business model, like the streaming, because not a lot of movies were available.
Well, even now it's not like Netflix doesn't get all of the rights, the streaming rights for the movies that you could get for the DVDs that they initially had. Right. Especially like the new releases. Right. That sort of stuff. Like there were way more movies available on DVD than on streaming, unfortunately. In 2010, our dear Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy.
Aww, so sad.
Today, only one Blockbuster store remains. It is in Bend, Oregon. And there's actually a good documentary called The Last Blockbuster.
I was just going to say, I did watch that, and that's on Netflix, right?
So I think it was on Netflix for a time, which was just ironic.
So ironic.
But I was looking for it earlier today to see where you could stream it, and I don't know if it didn't look like it was still on Netflix, but maybe it is. Netflix today, while Blockbuster is down to one privately owned store, Netflix has a valuation of about $169 billion. Wow. Hindsight is 20/20 or better. But that $50 million investment to buy Netflix back in 2000 could today be worth $169 billion.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
I mean, you win some, you lose some.
They lost a lot.
But those are 3 iconic companies that were once at the top of their respective games.
Yeah.
And for one reason or another, whether it was competition, new technology, bad luck, the .com crash, bad decisions, the failure to buy Netflix, they could not innovate in the way that they needed to.
Right.
And each of those companies is no longer with us in the form that they were when we knew them best.
I know. It's so crazy just how much of a household name they were, too.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm sure our kids don't even know who they are. Like, if we were to say Blackberry, AOL, Blockbuster. Maybe Blockbuster because like 90s nostalgia is coming back and they probably like see vintage like Blockbuster t-shirts.
Maybe. I doubt it though.
If
Yeah.
anything, but that's crazy. Okay, Tony, if I were to tell you these names, would they mean anything to you? Have you even heard of them?
Okay.
Lena Morris, Zoe Roth, Sammy Griner.
No.
Okay.
Never heard of any of those people.
Right. What if I told you that they are viral memes that you've probably seen before, and I will even show you the images, as Overly Attached Girlfriend,
Okay. Seen her before.
Disaster Girl,
Oh, yeah. She's so cute.
and Success Kid.
Oh, wow. He just, I think you've got to clean him up. He just succeeded at something.
So there is a whole world of everyday folks who accidentally become viral memes. And it's just crazy how many people become a viral meme. There's even a whole BuzzFeed channel on their YouTube called I Accidentally Became a Meme. And it interviews people and their stories on how they became these memes.
Interesting.
And it just goes to show that, like, anything that you put up on the internet can be used really for anything. Like, I'm reading these stories of like multiple meme celebrities. I'm using air quotes for celebrities. And almost all of them started like with their image shared online, like especially Reddit. Apparently like, you can just put anything on Reddit and it can just be used over and over again. So, and also other like public album forums like Flickr. And I mean, anything that you put up on your YouTube is public to people. So I'm going to highlight just these three people that I said. There's a story behind every accidental meme celebrity out there, but I just kind of want to talk about how some of these people just rose to like a viral sensation and what they kind of did with their fame for a little bit. So I'll start with Overly Attached Girlfriend. Her name is Lena Morris. And in 2012, she is from Denton, Texas. She submitted a video on YouTube for a contest held by Justin Bieber, who challenged his friends to create a parody called Girlfriend to complement his hit song called Boyfriend at the time.
Okay.
And so this video that she made was an exaggerated satire of parts of Bieber's song that, so parts of his song were kind of perceived to be a little like clingy and insecure. And so it showed Lena staring at the camera with these like really wide stalker-like eyes and like this fixed smile, singing about basically like Facebook stalking her boyfriend and other crazy like hopeless romantic lyrics. So the video itself went viral almost immediately with almost like 1 million views in the first 2 days. And it was shared on Reddit with over 1.8 million views in less than 24 hours. So people kind of like thought that her like crazy facial expression was something unique. And Overly Attached Girlfriend, like a screenshot of her, became an internet meme. And so it features like an image macro of Lena smiling and staring maniacally at the camera. And it's captioned in like so many different ways that portrays her to be like either a stalker or, jealous or committed to her love interest in an unhealthy degree is what some of these things are saying. So Lena took that. And so then she just began posting on YouTube on a more regular basis after the video's viral success. She kind of made Overly Attached Girlfriend her character, and she would do like a Valentine's Day video as Overly Attached Girlfriend, if you can imagine,
that's great.
Comedy behind it.
Own it.
Yeah, exactly.
Own your meme.
So she was able to gain enough subscribers where she could actually quit her job and become a full-time YouTuber. Her YouTube channel has more than 1.25 million subscribers today.
Wow.
So
what's her YouTube channel called?
Just Lena. So she doesn't Laina.
Oh, okay.
So she doesn't really use her last name. She wanted to keep it private, but it came out. It's Morris. But she actually, when people tried to first discover who was behind this viral meme, she actually went by a different last name. She went by like Lena Walker or something.
I don't blame her.
But through the years, Lena was always like slightly bothered by the fact that her face became the image of a crazy girlfriend. And she also never felt like she had control over her image. And
yeah,
then,
well, that's the scary thing about when your image gets put up on the internet like that and you don't have control over it.
right, exactly. And other things like were kind of crazy about this like overnight like viral success that, you know, people kind of started like stalking her on like the internet. Like people like pretended to be her and like claim that they, you know, were her and all this stuff. But she decided to kind of like take back some sort of control. So in April of 2021, Lena learned from other accidentally famous meme stars about turning their image into NFTs to sell. Now, do you know what NFTs are? Because I had to
I do.
really look down into that.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So an NFT is a non-fungible token. It's a file that lives on the blockchain, and it is a one-of-a-kind. It's supposed to be a one-of-a-kind file. So, like, let's say you took something like the Mona Lisa, right, and put it on the blockchain. There should only ever be one of those Mona Lisas on the blockchain. And you can verify that there's only one because it has a specific address on the blockchain. Or you could have a set of NFTs like Bored Apes or Crypto Kitties or whatever. And let's say you make 1,000 of them. It's sort of like trading cards, right? Like very
that's what I
rare trading cards.
gathered that they
Right.
were. Like
Where,
collectibles.
Yeah, collectibles. Like, you know, there's 1,000 of them, and I can tell because I can look on the blockchain and see this is one of those 1,000. If I want to buy it, sure, I can buy it. And, you know, there's some level of value attached to it, whether it's, you know, depending on how much people want it.
Right. Weren't there like celebrities that were buying NFTs?
Oh, yeah.
And, like using them
in 2020, 2021, up until the latest crypto crash, like Steph Curry,
Right.
Tons of celebrities were buying these Bored Apes, and making it their Twitter profile picture, their avatar,
Right.
And they would spend millions and millions of dollars on some of these things, which now have just crashed in valuation. Because I think people just now think that they're just JPEGs that you used to spend a ton of money for.
Well, yes, but so I guess like there has been this mentality of these like famous meme stars that in order to have some sort of control or like take control of their image back, they figured to be able to like have some sort of like financial control, they can turn them into NFTs and sell them. And so that is what Lena essentially did. She tokenized a version of the meme and sold it for $411,000 to an NFT collector called 3F Music. And again, there's just kind of this community of accidental viral meme stars.
Oh, that's funny. They should have their own like conference or convention.
Well, actually, I think there is something where they all gather together because a lot of them have all met, and some of them actually put content together or create content together on each other's YouTube channels where Overly Attached Girlfriend meets Bad Luck Brian.
Oh, nice. So they do some collabs.
And they do collabs together. Yeah.
I mean, do they have to be accidental though? Like you got to get like the Charlie Bit My Finger kid in there. I mean, like his parents, I think put that up on purpose. But, like maybe they didn't know how big of a meme that was going to become. But like, does he get to go to this convention?
Probably. Okay. I mean, yeah, it is like people. Yeah, he's part of the Where Are They Now? But there is there was like an article about in like 2012 like who the biggest accidental viral stars were, and these are some of the people on the list.
Okay.
The next person is Disaster Girl.
Disaster Girl.
Zoe Roth. So it is a photo of a young girl. She's kind of turning back and looking at the camera with like a knowing smirk on her face as a house is engulfed in flames and burning in the background.
Yeah, and she's young. Like this is like what, like a 4-year-old girl or something?
She was 4. So the story behind that meme is in 2008, Zoe Roth, it's from North Carolina. She was just 4 years old, and her mom had come home and she told her family about a fire station training that was like putting out a fire at a building under a controlled burn. So it was, you know, not an accidental fire.
Okay.
And so the family went out because they live by the fire station. They went out to just like watch, it all happen. And her dad was like taking pictures and, told Zoe to turn around, and she just like had this like menacing like look on her face.
Yeah, like look what I did.
Yeah. And that is what like the memes have just kind of like become. They've taken that and they've just kind of like used her image in context of like disaster or like revenge. Like that meme is like used for, that context. So her dad took the photo and submitted it in an emotion capture contest on JPG magazine. Maybe it's called JPEG magazine. Not sure.
We'll never know.
Okay. But it quickly spread across the internet as a meme. And so when Zoe became a teenager, her internet fame like still hadn't died down. Like I still probably use that image in different memes and GIFs that I send. So she was quoted at one point saying, "I'd love for this meme to help me get into or pay for college somehow." So after receiving an email in February of 2021 that suggested she sell the meme as an NFT for as much as 6 figures, they decided to sell an NFT of the photo for $486,716.
Wow.
To this 3F Music collector.
3F Music.
Yeah,
Same one, huh?
Right. They also retained a copyright over the work as well as an entitlement to 10% of proceeds when the NFT is resold.
Oh, yeah. That's something you can do with NFTs, too. That's kind of interesting. So, like, unlike if I were to sell... let's say I sold a painting at an auction, it's a one-time sale. If they resell it later because it went up in value, me as the original creator doesn't get anything, but with NFTs, you can work that into the contract.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
So she was able to go to college, and it really was because other meme famous people were just talking about this is how we were able to find success from this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, so, not all bad. Like if you become some sort of viral meme sensation for something that you didn't choose to and maybe wouldn't choose to, but like at least you during the crypto boom were able to make $400,000.
Right. But even if you didn't sell it as an NFT, there is a story, another success story of Success Kid. He is my favorite meme.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a baby in this.
Sammy Griner is his name.
Yeah. What is he, like 1?
Yeah, he wasn't. I don't think he was even 1, but it's a picture of, and I'm sure everyone has seen this. It's basically this like baby. He's in like a green and white baseball t-shirt. He's on the beach. He's clenching a fistful of sand with a determined facial expression is how like I would describe it. And it almost looks like he's doing like a fist pump, like, yes, like kind of, but apparently...
I think he just pooped.
Well, he was eating sand. And she took a picture. Like if you actually zoom into his fist.
You can kind of see some on his lips, I think.
Yeah, it's like a fistful of sand. So this photo, it began in 2007. Lainey Griner, her son Sammy, was trying to eat sand. And she uploaded the photo to Flickr in 2007, and it eventually became known as Success Kid. And the popularity of the image had CNN describe Sammy Griner as likely the internet's most famous baby. And
wow.
He has a very recognizable face and pose. Like he's just been on everything. So after the meme became popular, his mom, Lainey, licensed the picture and registered the copyright to the image in 2012. He has appeared, this image has appeared in ads and billboards for Coca-Cola, Virgin Mobile, Hot Topic.
Wow.
And it was even used by the White House to promote immigration reform.
Wow. How much did they make from all these uses of the photo?
I don't know, but I mean, she was smart enough to copyright it and register and license it to herself so that she had complete control over where her baby's image was going to be used.
Yeah, cool.
But the coolest part of this story is in 2015, Sammy's father, Justin, was diagnosed with kidney failure, and he received dialysis for 4 hours per session, 3 days a week. So the family decided to launch a GoFundMe campaign, hoping to raise $75,000 to pay for his medical care and eventually a kidney transplant. And so his mother, Lainey, was initially like kind of hesitant to associate the campaign with Success Kid and the meme. But in the first 5 days, it received donations of nearly, $9,000 from 300 people. And then the campaign was linked to a website in Reddit, and it just like blew up. And they brought in $83,000
Wow.
in just a few days. And Justin was able to receive a successful kidney transplant from it because everyone knew Success Kid needed help. Like, Success Kid had a dad that needed help.
That's awesome.
So, we talk about failure earlier, and we talk about a little bit of success, like overnight success and what you can do with that.
Yeah,
and,
Success Kid.
Yeah, those are a couple of the where are they now of accidental viral memes, but there are a couple other like feel good stories and some not so good stories about other viral memes that are out there.
Okay, cool. Everyone loves a good meme. Okay, everyone, you're probably wondering why podcasters are always like, hit the subscribe button, means a lot. We'd really appreciate it. So if you don't know, more subscribers means more listeners to the podcast. Each episode, it's more likely that you're going to download a future episode. Also, in the charts, that helps a podcast to grow, to get more listeners, to be presented in front of a larger audience. Only about half or even less than half of the people who listen to the podcast each week are subscribed. So hit that subscribe button or that follow button. It will help the podcast to get more attention. It will help make sure that we keep giving it the attention that it needs to create a quality podcast that you all will hopefully continue to love. So hit that button. That's all we'll ask.
All right, Tony, you know what time it is.
By now I do. 10 episodes in, I know what time it is.
It is time for our Hot Mom of the Week.
Yeah, whoa, last time I checked, I'm still hot, real hot.
All right, so we have talked about failure. We've talked about like overnight success. And so when I was thinking of our Hot Mom of the Week, I immediately thought of somebody named Ashley Iaconetti, now known as Ashley Iaconetti Haibon. And she was also known for a while as Ashley I because she was a contestant on season 19 of The Bachelor.
Okay.
With Chris Soules. Do you remember Farmer Chris?
No, but I'm guessing there was also another Ashley,
yes,
because otherwise we wouldn't know the initial of
yes,
her last name.
She was
okay.
Ashley I for a while, and she started out as a big time failure in terms of her reputation on the show. So when she was on The Bachelor, she was depicted as this huge spoiled brat. She was a crier. She cried almost every episode and every time she had her interview. There was kind of a villain on the show that really picked on her, called her dumb. They were on a 2-on-1, the villain and Ashley I, and Ashley ended up going home that episode because she couldn't handle herself on there. She tried to redeem herself on season 2 of Bachelor in Paradise, where she fell in love with a contestant named Jared, and it initially wasn't reciprocated. And she came off as very aggressive, a little clingy, a little stalkerish, kind of like that meme we were talking about.
Poor Ashley.
Yes, and she left that season crying. Fast forward to today, she is thriving. She ended up winning over Jared's heart off camera. I actually had watched like a internet interview where they did where he described the moment that he knew he was in love with her. It was like an actual like true love story because it happened off camera. They got married in 2019. They brought a beautiful baby boy into the world just last year, who actually I just saw a video. He's obsessed with NSYNC, and so he's good in my book, that little baby boy.
I see his pictures. He is cute.
He's so cute. They are a beautiful family together. She is so happy. She has 1.2 million followers on Instagram, and she has so many brand deals. Like, she has really taken her persona and didn't stay in she didn't stay in this typecast of, being dumb or a
Yeah.
spoiled brat. I mean, she does still embrace the fact that she cries at everything. There's some posts where I think she's like crying.
I think I see her crying in a picture with Tom Brady. I'm not sure if she's crying or what, but it's
Yes. And, I'd say after all this, she has finally come out on top because she seems so happy. And yeah, she was one of those tragic characters that, like, I usually, when I see how they're depicted on The Bachelor or those reality television shows, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't want to follow you, or, you kind of like rub me the wrong way. But it was kind of these like behind the scenes things that were happening in her life that made me really intrigued by her and started following her. And yeah, I think she's doing really great.
cool. Oh, I like the choice. I mean, clearly she had some ups and downs.
Yeah.
She had some failures and successes, and now she looks like she's doing pretty well.
Yeah. So follow Ashley I. Her handle is at Ashley Iaconetti, AShleyIaconetti on TikTok, or at Ashley_Iaconetti on Instagram.
Well, that's all we've got today. If you enjoyed the episode, hit the subscribe button.
And reach out on social media.
.coms
And Hot Moms.
signing off.